stories. Any answer from you guys?
Well, from my perspective, our life is one gigantic story with many, many chapters in between. And so it's our responsibility as storytellers to ensure that we capture it one way or another. So from a perspective of how do I find stories, there are plenty of ways in which we can find them. So for example, when we're trying to come up with a way in which to make a connection based on the message that we're trying to share, we'll likely to attach a story to it. And now, how do we find the stories that actually fit with the message itself? We look for that in a few different ways. One way is to really just have a conversation with one or two people. So for example, I might sit here with Oscar one afternoon and say, Oscar, tell me about your first grade teacher.
Yep, I think we can all remember this. Yeah,
he may remember her, may not, but it will trigger an event in his mind around what he saw from that person. We could go on and play this game with, tell me about how you met your spouse. Tell me about the time that your first child was born. There's a story that happened in each of those events. Not every story will necessarily resonate with the message that you have, but life happens so quickly and we don't document it that we need to take that time to sit down potentially with one or two people and then just go over different kinds of events that may seem relatively common, others that are more specific to the purpose of the message. Like, what was it that drove you to want to express this message or to convey it to more than one person, i.e. you want to speak about it on a stage? That will trigger some kind of an event or a story that you experience that is driving your why. And so I find that when you have that opportunity to work within a group and to have somebody prompt you with those kinds of key dates, key milestones, key events in your life, that you start remembering and reminiscing about what it was that surrounded it. And then at that point, you're documenting it either through a video or through taking notes and trying to isolate, was there a key message? Was there a key learning environment or a key learning takeaway that this story may work within one part of the message in which you're able to share? In which case, you put it aside, not to work on in that moment, but to work on when you have your mind clear of all the stories that you're trying to seek out. And take the opportunity to work with another individual who can prompt you so that your only role is just to dig deep into your mind around the events that happened by what you're triggered by, so that you can pull the stories out from within.
I also think it's really helpful to think of the emotion when you're trying to dig up stories. What are some emotions you remember? Fear, something that was humorous, something that maybe made you angry or something. And that'll help trigger events and stories that where if you connect emotionally, then your audience is likely to connect emotionally as well.
That is a good trick too. When you go shopping, you want to have a shopping list. So like shopping list, you put the emotions on it. I'm looking for something happy experience. I'm looking for something I overcame something. Then your brain starts thinking about remembering. And Tim mentioned that it's very valuable to have someone can be your soundboard. Just listen with curiosity. That is, I cannot emphasize enough how important it is, and that makes it much, much easier than thinking your brain and going in and in. If you're like me, I often go in and in. But when you start listening to the others, your brain starts working to find your stories too. Listen to others. Then your brain was triggered. Just Oscar said, oh yeah, I remember that too. Oh, I have that kind of experience that too. Then jot down or type in or swipe it. Then that is your asset. That is how you find stories. And what is a story is kind of interesting question related to how do you find a story. It's something made you different, event before and after. Event was sandwiched by before and after. That is everything is story, from shaving your head to cut my hair to tint my hair. Everything is a story, just a lot of chapters and a lot of points in it. We are overlooking so much precious moments, precious stories a lot. So we need to be on hat of searching.
And I find today especially that we have these wonderful multimedia devices in our pockets all the time. We're constantly wanting to capture the moment that something happened, and yet we don't really describe it in any way. We don't add any more to it. The story happens, we take an image or we take a video of it, and sometimes we share it on a social media platform or we share it with our friends just in private, but sometimes it's just the image itself. If it's video, then it's a snippet of what was ever captured in the moment, not the entire event. And yet we don't use that to really bring out the story behind why you had that image. But it's there because there was a reason why you wanted to capture what you did. And it's going back even and looking at those devices and that history that you have. There is another resource you have available to you to go back and then just reminisce about, I didn't even realize that this was meaningful at the moment as it related to, again, perhaps something within a story that you're trying to convey, or a different outlook on how your message can be conveyed through an image itself, and have that be another resource for you to be able to help bring out what you're trying to state.
That is interesting. I often overlook, but it's when you think of the pictures and your social network, what triggered me to share this particular picture. Behind it, taking one more step is going deeper inside you, and that is going to find a lot of stories, and then before you know it, you will be struggling, which story should I take?
Well, self-reflection is often overlooked. I think that
yes.
When I was in grad school, we did a lot of reflection exercises, reflecting on what we were learning. And so, yeah, again, self-reflection is key, I think, to get deeper, as you said, Misako. Absolutely.
That's true. Everyone try these 3 things, and why you took this picture, and having someone else to listen to your trigger your stories and self-reflection, you will be finding a lot of stories. We promise you. I have a lot of stack of stories.